Well, we just heard from John-Claude Juncker. I know that you've been listening in to the interview. He was saying that if there is a no-deal Brexit, there will be a border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. Is that your understanding?
Well, I couldn't hear the details of the interview. I couldn't really hear what he was saying, but your team helpfully gave me a bit of an outline. Look, what I would say is we're all working very hard, and there are lots of reasons why we want to make sure we get a deal, as the Prime Minister has outlined and as he'll be going out to the EU to do in mid-October at that EU Council. But obviously getting a deal is our key priority. There's a huge amount of work going on in government as well, as you know, to be ready for no deal should it happen, because the Prime Minister has been clear, and I think people, when I've gone around the country, very clear, they want to see this done. They want us to leave the EU and get on and deliver on what they voted for in 2016, and we have to be ready to do that.
I know that you say that you're trying to get a deal, but we need to be honest now, don't we, about what the consequences of no deal might be. There will be a hard border, won't there, between Northern Ireland and the Republic in the event of a no-deal Brexit?
Well, we're doing a huge amount of work to prepare for what no deal will mean. That is absolutely the right thing for us as a government to do, to be prepared for whatever outcome there may be. Obviously, as I said, as you acknowledge, we want to get a deal, and as I believe Juncker said himself, that there is a very good possibility of getting a deal. He was very positive about that from what I read in the reports and of the interview you've just had. But we are going to be publishing an update to the Yellowhammer work. Obviously, there's been a huge amount of work done since that 2nd of August paper was released. There's been a daily meeting of the Committee of Ministers that looks at preparation for no deal, and a huge amount has been done since then. There's a lot of different things we can do to make sure that the country is ready. We're working on a whole range of those things. As I say, we'll publish an update soon, and I myself am going over to Ireland literally as soon as I finish speaking to you this morning.
As Security Minister, you are across the detail. If we leave without a deal, does the security risk in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland increase?
Well, we're very fortunate to have a fantastic set of people who work to keep us safe, through our police and our agencies, who keep us safe both right across the United Kingdom and work with their partners, both the Republic of Ireland and partners around the EU. Now, obviously, there is a range of law enforcement tools that our police use with our partners in the EU. We would want to have a really ambitious security agreement with the EU when we leave the EU. That's one of the things we are negotiating. Of course, even if you aren't part of the EU, you can still be part of things like Europol. The United States is involved quite heavily with Europol, so there's still a huge amount of options there for us. So I'm confident that our security and our safety will be protected by those brilliant teams that we work with every day and who I'll be visiting later on this afternoon.
You see, it is quite frustrating with under 6 weeks to go to not be able to get really straight answers to questions that people are really worried about, like would there be a border if there isn't a deal? Would the security risk increase if there isn't a deal? I mean, the fact is, you can't guarantee, can you, that the security risk won't change for people in the UK?
Well, obviously, we are reviewing our security status as a country all the time. That's something that's ongoing day by day, depending on what's happening both in the UK and around the world, regardless and aside from Brexit itself. That's something we keep under constant review. But we are always looking at how we make our country safer, regardless of whether we have a deal or no deal with the EU. There are opportunities for us as a country, both in terms of how we work across with Interpol and countries like the Five Eyes around the world and do more with them, as well as still as the US, as I said, do play an important part with Europol. But I'm confident, as I outlined a week or two ago, that our security is in a good state. But it is therefore, again, a key reason why we want to make sure we have a good deal with the EU, so we can play an important part in helping the EU with their security as much as working on our security. But I'm confident we will be secure regardless of where we end up with Brexit. But our focus is on getting a deal.
I mean, just looking at, for example, the Operation Yellowhammer document, I know you say that this is being updated, but this is still our basis of what the government's no-deal planning assumptions are, the reasonable worst-case scenario. It says that if there isn't a deal, law enforcement data and information sharing between the UK and the EU will be disrupted. I mean, it's time to be honest, isn't it? There is a security risk if we leave without a deal.
Well, we need to be very clear about a couple of things in what you just outlined. Look, you're quite right. That is a Yellowhammer document from the 2nd of August. A lot has moved on since then. As I say, that ministerial meeting has been meeting daily, putting a whole range of work around national security and a whole range of measures that we're looking at to be ready for no deal should we have to be in that situation. We obviously want to be focused on delivering a deal, but we also need to be clear about what those law enforcement measures are. I mean, one of the key things around there are things like the European arrest warrant. That's about what we do if we want to bring somebody who's committed an offence here in the UK back into the UK. There were methods pre the European arrest warrant. Obviously, it's a faster, simpler process. But our actual day-to-day security, as I say, I'm confident we've got agencies and our law enforcement work with our partners around the world and our partners in Europe is something that we can ensure that we continue to be safe and secure. Obviously, we want to get a deal. We want to be able to make sure that we take advantage of working together with our partners in Europe for the benefit of everybody.
Okay. Now, we are awaiting the verdict from the Supreme Court on whether or not the Prime Minister acted illegally in proroguing Parliament. If they rule that that was against the law, will Parliament return earlier than planned?
Well, we've always been very clear, the Prime Minister's been clear that we respect the law, we respect the rule of law. Obviously, we have to all wait and see what the ruling of the Supreme Court is next week before we can come to a final conclusion about what the implications of that are.
I spoke to David Cameron a couple of days ago. We're going to hear the interview later in the programme, but he told me that the one piece of advice he would give to Boris Johnson would be to don't break the law. Is that good advice?
Well, all of us as ministers at all times are very determined to make sure that we abide by the rule of law. The Prime Minister and Number 10 have been very clear about abiding by the rule of law, but we also should be very open about the fact that we needed to prorogue Parliament to have a Queen's speech. It is right that we set out a really clear, ambitious and exciting domestic agenda, investing in our NHS, in our security and police forces, as well as our education. All of the things the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, said he wanted to do on the steps of Downing Street. Wants to get on with that, but we need a Queen's speech to do that.